All right, so the pick is in, and do we want to announce it?
If you know it.
It's Paul Skenes. Paul Skenes, first overall pick by the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's according to Robert Murray of Fansided.
I'll wait till it's official.
So we'll wait, but he tends to be pretty correct.
Naruto?
I'm smiling. It's more of relief. At least it's Skenes. That's where we're at. Right. Like, at least it's Skenes. I'm happy. It's not Cruz. I wonder, I'm wondering why. I guess, let me hear your take right now.
So obviously, I think we all wanted Cruz. But you look at a Paul Skenes. Paul Skenes is a guy that you put on your team to go win some playoff games. He's a top of the rotation arm that the Pirates aren't going to get unless it's in the draft. And an arm like this doesn't come around very often, obviously. He's the best arm probably since Steven Strasburg. So he's a guy that you add to this rotation, and he's a guy that can win playoff games for you. He's a guy that you can win game 1, 2 of a World Series if the Pirates ever get there with. They don't have guys like that in the organization. This is the first one probably since Garrett Cole.
And much more talented than Garrett Cole. Like, that's the exciting part. As Pirate fans, the most recent Pirate fans, you've sat through a 1-1 pitcher in Garrett Cole and saw the success. He's a really good pitcher. This guy's supposed to be better. That's exciting.
Jonathan Mayo also reporting it's Skenes as well. So looks like that's who it is. Manfred's at the
Manfred is talking.
Yep.
At the podium right now. I'll say this: I'm surprised. I didn't think they would go this route. We didn't really hear Skenes' name. Like, he was tossed around in a few mock drafts, but there was no smoke around Skenes like there was Langford or Clark, really.
And Cruz. So, there's a lot of talking Cruz, but it's mainly like he doesn't want to be in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so they kept their cards close to their chest, and like Tyler mentioned, like this is an impact arm. We had Jim Callis on the show last week, and he was a huge proponent of Skenes. He has Skenes number 1 on his board. And if you're a team like the Pirates, you immediately are adding an incredibly talented arm to your system that, like Tyler mentioned, can go out there and he can win you postseason games. So he's going to be an exciting arm to have in the system. Likely, I think also Callis mentioned, he top starting pitching prospect in the minors, right away. So you're talking about a guy, he immediately becomes the team's number 1 prospect, probably a top 10 to top 15 prospect in all of baseball. Advanced, probably starting in Greensboro. I like the pick. I'm happy to sign with one of the 2 LSU guys. That was my main ask, and I'm relieved. I'm relieved now. Yeah,
that's how I feel. Again, I'm just relieved that's one of the 2. Wasn't my preference, but I'm perfectly okay with Skenes. And actually, to go what you're talking about, I was like, where they fit. Like Jim Callis said, he is your best pitching prospect. And the way he was talking is, he has Skenes number 1, and he was talking where Cruz fits, and he's like, I'm not sure if he'd be 5 or 6. So, like, that's what we're talking about. Like, we're not talking about just the Pirates, just their top prospect. We're talking about this. Skenes could be like a top 5, definitely almost like a top 10 prospect in baseball immediately, the next mocks come out for next year. So that's the type of talent you're talking about here. That's huge.
Yeah, and I think when you look at comparing him to Dylan Cruz, obviously we all would have been very happy with Dylan Cruz, but I think you look at Paul Skenes' stuff, you can see a guy that can win a Cy Young award. You look at Dylan Cruz, I don't know if you really have an MVP in him. You have a very good baseball player. I don't know that he's an MVP level of player at his ceiling. Paul Skenes' stuff on the mound, he can win a Cy Young.
That's fair.
I think that's an interesting point. If you comparing them to their peers, right? Like, we talked all we talked all the last 2-3 weeks about how there's not a huge difference between Cruz, Langford, Clark, Jenkins, right? They're all very good hitters. Cruz is probably 1, Langford 2, but they're all fairly close, right? No one is in Paul Skenes' stratosphere right now when it comes to him versus his peers. So you are picking the clear-cut number 1 pitcher in this draft. And yeah, the stuff is incredible. The command seems very good. I'm curious to just kind of get him into the system and see what he can do. I gotta imagine this guy's a fast riser through the system. Like I said, everyone's kind of comparing him to Steven Strasburg, and Steven Strasburg was pretty damn good. So if this is the best guy since then, and there's been some good guys since then, we're talking about what I think Jim Callis said it is the number 2 pitching prospect of all time is where he put Skenes behind Strasburg. So you got to like this pick.
And someone in the comments does bring up a good point about Skenes probably is a little bit under slot here. So if the Pirates are looking to save some money to maybe allocate that later on in the draft, this is the preferred way, I think, to do it, is to go with a Paul Skenes rather than a Langford or one of the high school bats. You're still getting a bona fide stud here. And you still have some money left over, hopefully. I would assume so, at least.
Yeah, I don't think a whole lot, but it's a little bit. And that could have been, that's why I said at first, ask me my opinion. This pick I'm fine with, but what it also does is it makes me want to know what was the situation with Dylan Cruz, right? Was it really the money that deterred him? Did he just simply really not want to be here? And that's why there's the money talk. Scott Boras' agent was doing his job to get him out of Pittsburgh. I mean, it's a possibility, but it makes me wonder. And if he was stuck on the 10 million, not the Pirates can't do it, but he could have signed the very, very last minute, which screws up their bonus, right? That 5%. So maybe there were some things that deterred him from that, and they knew they could sign Skenes. And again, maybe they're sitting around $9 million, which gives them about $8 million left in the rest of the draft. So you're right, Tyler. It definitely, I won't say it saves them a whole lot of money, but they know exactly what they can work with going forward. With Dylan Cruz, there's maybe some uncertainty. They might get him to sign for $9 million or so, but they might wait till the very end, and now they're out of that 5%.
Yeah, it also does seem like they've got a deal already in place with Skenes. So being reported 9.25 million is the deal for Skenes, which would be a record. It's the highest bonus of all time, and it's about 500,000 less than slot. So they can move that money down and play with it the rest of the draft. That also means that hopefully Skenes is signing relatively quickly. And I don't know what their plans will be for him with him for the rest of the year, but it seems like we won't have to wait long for Pittsburgh Pirate Paul Skenes.
That's a big W in my eyes, guys. That the deal's already in place, and if he could sign right away, that's huge. Not that the Pirates need him to play at the end of the year for some playoff run, but it's done. They're already in the system, ready to go. So it's going to be interesting how they play the rest of the year. How many innings is he really going to pitch? What's going to happen with him? With that said, bets, guys. Do you see Paul Skenes on the Pirates next year?
I don't think so.
No.
I think you should, but we won't.
Not unless this team, P.S. Dylan Cruz was just drafted second overall by the Washington Nationals. I don't think we see Skenes in the majors next year unless the Pirates are in a playoff hunt and they're calling him up for kind of that stretch run. I could see that happening, but that would be it. And that's a best case scenario. that means Pirates are in a playoff run and Skenes, is rolling through the minors.
I just can't believe we're all pronouncing his name wrong. It's obviously Skins.
Shout out Neil. Hey, maybe that's what ended up making the decision for Ben Cherington. Was he hey, we need to draft somebody who's less, a little bit more obscure. You don't know how to pronounce his name. You got to learn his name. Shout
We
out.
already have a Cruz on the team. We don't need another.
Yeah, that was just going to get
Less
confusing.
confusion.
Yeah. It was going to make post-game shows incredibly difficult trying to figure out which Cruz was Cruz.
Yep.
Yeah, we'd have to start using first names.
I don't want to do that.
Which Cruz that hit the 2 home runs in today's game?
Matt saying Cruz is going to put up Pujols numbers. Just you watch. I think Dylan Cruz is going to be a really good ball player. I actually like when I look at him, and an MLB broadcast kind of showed this similarity too. He reminds me a lot like Brian Reynolds. Like I feel like that's like the exact type of player he will become, which is a very good player. Like that's kind of what I see in Dylan Cruz. Pretty good at a lot of things, just like, but like not great at anything in particular, but just good at a bunch of stuff that when it all comes together, you're just a good baseball player.
Very similar swing as well.
Very similar swings. Yeah, when you put those swings side by side, very similar.
Yeah.
But to Tyler's point, right, with Paul Skenes, you look at Steve Strasburg and the talent he has. So we're going to talk. You have a guy who you could see winning a Cy Young. Do you see Brian Reynolds winning an MVP any day? No, right? So like that's what we're talking about. However, Brian Reynolds plays baseball. Availability is part of his tool bag, right? Steve Strasburg, well, that's the risk reward you talk about, so like that's why there's a lot of debate on these two. And I'm with both, again, like Paul Skenes could go out there and win a Cy Young, but he could also not be on the field.
Neil says he can't wait for Oscar Marine to tell Skenes to throw 95 for more control. Let's worry about that once he gets into the system. Yeah, but that would be our luck. We call up Paul Skenes 2 years later, and he's like topping out at 94.
Stop it.
On the bright side, they got to go reliever.
Positive show. We got a reliever.
Yeah, I mean, at worst case scenario, he's a good, middle reliever.
Let's just discuss, for discussing factors, Paul Skenes, do you think they even entertain being a two-way player?
No. He didn't hit at
as
LSU.
Jim puts up the a comment.
Absolutely not. Like it's not even entertained. It's not something you do.
Well, that was relatively quick, so okay.
I mean, the guy didn't have a single plate appearance this last year.
Sure.
He hit, obviously when he was at Air Force. You're not really playing the best competition at Air Force. Now, I mean, he's a very talented, athletic individual. I'm sure he could hit, but the other thing you're going to do is, like, he's probably a AA level pitcher right now, right? But as a hitter, like, he might not be a pro hitter in any way. Like, he's complex league hitter. So, like, if you choose to do both, you're just setting him up to get just annihilated in the Eastern League against like grown men pitchers when he hasn't
now determined
over a year.
AA pitcher. I just asked this because in today's game, even I saw Ryan Barucki pitch. So could he not be a major league pitcher right now today either, Jim?
Okay, so I think Paul Skenes could be like he could survive the major leagues right now, right? Like you put him in the majors and he's probably not getting.
He's probably the third best pitcher on the team, Jim.
He might not be embarrassing, but he's you want him to throw some minor league innings first. Even Strasburg took a while, and that's the best pitching prospect of all time. So.
He took a year.
But granted, like
took
a year.
And it took forever to sign him.
Yeah, I don't think Strasburg pitched that season.
No, he was up very quickly though. Max Clark.
Again, that's why I asked, because I feel like any of the two, right, Cruz or Skenes, is one of the reasons why you pick them. They're a fast track. And I'm not saying it's a trend, but you're seeing, I mean, like Zach Neal, he's in the majors. The Angels called him up 2 weeks after opening day, something like that. You're seeing what McLean called. He was in, well, I guess that was different. He was in that Davis one, but still, you're seeing some people get called up the next year. Could Skenes be that person? I think he could. He has the ability and potential to. It comes down to the Pirates, if they will. And I just want to say something too, because we talked about this. We haven't actually talked about like on a show. I know there's a lot of people talking about whoever they draft will be great. We can see him in 2030. And trust me, I get it. Totally get it, right? But like, to be honest, I don't know why he picks and chooses whom, but you look around the farm, and Cherington has fast-tracked quite a few prospects, right? I mean, that's fair. So I don't think there's precedent to say, like, there's no way he can be here in a year and a half. That it's going to be like 3 years, something like that, you know, the narrative and such. Because, like, look at Anthony Solomita. Like, he's already in AA.
Well, I think, too, it's different
impressive
with pitchers, too. Like, I feel like pitchers can move quicker, right? And you've seen that recently. Like, the White Sox with Garrett Crochet. I don't think he played a game in the minors. I think he went immediately to the majors. The Angels, Reed Detmers. Reed Detmers made 14 starts in the minor leagues and then got promoted to the majors and has been there ever since. So
Brandon Finnegan was up the same year.
Yeah, so like you've got these advanced college arms. If they perform in the minors, like as long as they don't, go all Jack Leiter on us, then they'll be in the majors pretty quick. So yeah, like as long as Skenes is doing what he's supposed to, I don't see any reason why he can't be here pretty quick.
Who is the pitcher that stole a bunch of genes from like Dillard's? he pitched in the majors.
Mike Leake.
Yeah. Leake pitched in the majors too.
Yeah. Mike Leake, I think, went straight from draft to the majors.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know if he pitched a single game in the minors.
He did not.
I think he did. Didn't he go back down the next? He never did? Okay.
Not until like 4 years later.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like maybe on a rehab assignment. But yeah, like he went from he was the 8th overall pick, went straight to the majors.
He got genes, though.
Yeah.
So I guess just to play a little devil's advocate here, you guys have any concern about the increased velocity, just basically jumping onto the radar that Paul Skenes did this year?
I personally don't, just because you see that a lot with pitchers kind of going from that like freshman year to sophomore. Like you see a lot of improvement from your really good arms over that like 2-year span. And if you remember, Strasburg was the same way, right? Strasburg went undrafted out of high school, and then 3 years later, he was the greatest pitching prospect of all time. So I think it's just guys, just once you get into that development, you get into college, and that's kind of just what you do. Some people just get really good really fast.
But even like his sophomore to junior year from Air Force, which I think is something you can throw into it too. He was at Air Force. Baseball's not exactly your priority there. And then you jump into LSU's program where they have Wes Johnson as the pitching coach, who was just with the Twins and put together great staffs.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably a big part of it as well. So probably why I'm not as concerned about him as maybe I would be another guy that transferred in and threw 94 and all of a sudden throws 102.
Yep.
I would say the fact, your last point you made, but also the fact too about just transitioning full-time as a pitcher as well. Maybe part of that also. Again, like he goes to a really good program, focuses on nothing but pitching. I'm not saying that adds, tremendous velocity because you're just doing that, but that's his main focus. I think that's why you saw him skyrocket, just becoming this great pitcher now too.
The other part is that he caught at Air Force, so his arm
was doing
a lot more years.
Air Force. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's another thing too. Yeah, like pitching wasn't the only thing he was doing.
Yeah. He looks like he can carry that 97 to 100 pretty well.
Well, he did. All 140 times in a game.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean you look at like the makeup of him, right? And he kind of reminds you of Garrett Cole. Like he's got that workhorse type frame to him that this is a guy who you should be able to get 200 innings out of, and he just rolls through people, and you can count on him for 100 plus pitches a day, and it doesn't really affect him.
You all, thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.